Brave breaths. It all comes back to brave breaths. The idea that when things seem overwhelming, your day is falling apart, and the 7-year-old version of yourself would rather just crawl back into your cubby at school, a brave breath can help you to reset. During my 16 years as an educator, I've learned that big emotions can often be hard to put into words, especially for children who are still learning to master the complexity of language. Using words to describe feelings and then using those words to learn how to manage feelings can be a daunting task. In my role as the assistant to the superintendent for the Greater Latrobe School District, located about an hour east of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I'm fortunate enough to work with many amazing students on a daily basis. I've consulted with some of these students, and I asked them to provide illustrations of what big emotions mean to them. I hope that by seeing their unique perspectives through art, we're all able to gain a little bit more insight into what many of our students are dealing with on a daily basis at home and at school. Public schools are an interesting microcosm of the larger world. Support staff, teachers, and administrators use the structure of the school day to help children learn to become contributing members of the larger global community. Rules, schedules, procedures, social norms, all are designed to help students learn to become contributing members in the real world. But for students, the world of school very much is their real world right now. Their everyday reality that can often be loud, overwhelming, confusing, and at times, just plain hard. One morning during a summer enrichment program, one of my young students suddenly burst into tears. Big tears streamed down his face and fogged up his little glasses. We quickly went over to see what was wrong. Between big sobs, he managed to get out, "I have a problem." Alarmed, we asked what was wrong. He explained that when it was time to go home, his mom was picking him up to go to lunch and to the pool for the afternoon. It was something he was clearly looking forward to. "Well, what's the problem?" we asked. He looked at us like we were the hysterical ones, and he said, "The problem is I want to go home now." Big emotions, little learner. Brave breaths. Including some of his friends in the conversation, we talked about times when we had all been looking forward to something and just how hard it was to wait. This was just a small moment, but hopefully one that helped to develop compassion and understanding in all of the students that they could use for future situations. As educators, we teach all sorts of things that we are just positive students need in order to be successful in life. Multiplication, poetry, science skills, even military conquests, and how to throw and kick a ball. However, among all of these amazing skills, we expect these little learners to just know how to navigate the big emotions that are a part of life. How have we gotten to the point where we spend hours explicitly teaching long division, but we expect these little learners to just know how to manage big emotions? Thinking about all of that makes me want to crawl into my cubby all over again. So now, more than ever, schools need to seize the opportunity to reset, to focus on the priorities, and to remember that children can't learn, no one can learn, when basic needs aren't met. Prior to the pandemic, many schools were beginning to implement social-emotional learning into the curriculum. Social-emotional learning is the idea of intentionally teaching social skills, emotional awareness, and coping strategies so that students develop the soft skills needed to manage the big emotions that are inevitably a part of life. My school district was no different. The Greater Latrobe School District implemented the Jessie Lewis Choose Love Movement curriculum, which was designed by Scarlett Lewis, whose 6-year-old son Jesse was among the 19 students and 6 educators murdered in the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School 10 years ago in December 2012. We implemented the program in grades kindergarten through 8 in order to help teach students how to have courage, gratitude, forgiveness, and compassion in action for everyone around them. Coping skills, asking for help, managing conflict, and yes, these brave breaths that I keep mentioning are all a part of the program. but the program is inherently part of what we need to reframe, to reset. We are working to make the shift from thinking about social emotional skills as an isolated program taught only by the school counselor to one with strategies and techniques that can be embedded in a variety of situations throughout the school day. In order to help accomplish this shift, we need the help of all caring adults involved in the life of a child. We need the adults to help discuss emotions, normalize the struggles when things don't go according to plan, and help teach students the strategies and techniques needed so that they can look forward to growing up to become contributing members of their own future communities. One of my students, an imaginative 6-year-old who lives in the world of Spider-Man and superheroes, has been having meltdowns during the day. When he gets frustrated, he will frequently aim his wrists at his peers and teachers and zap webs at them, Spider-Man style. If you think about it from his perspective, it makes a lot of sense. When Spider-Man is in danger or feeling threatened, he will zap webs to help control the situation or escape. For Spider-Man, this is a great skill and easily transferable to a lot of situations. For a first grader, not so much. We are working with his teachers and parents to help teach easy-to-use and age-appropriate coping skills to help manage his frustration. We taught him how to use a timer to complete work in short 5-minute increments, but then he became frustrated if he wasn't called on to answer a question right away. We taught him how to wait his turn in his first grade class, but he wasn't able to implement this skill in music class, which then necessitated a whole new cycle of practicing the skill and more patience. As Marie Curie once said, the way of progress is neither swift nor easy, which is probably easier for me to say standing here than in the firing line of a crumpled worksheet and a tipped-over desk. My point is, if we're this frustrated as the adults, how does little Spider-Man feel? I'm beginning to think that brave breaths and time to reset might be helpful for everyone involved in these situations. Taking a moment to step back, reflect, and then respond from the child's point of view might go a long way toward modeling the social skills we are hoping to embed in these everyday moments. During the pandemic, we heard a lot about what educators were doing to manage the shift to online learning. Teachers across the nation were frequently featured in the news, showing off all of the neat things they were doing to keep their students happy and engaged in learning. Now the message seems to be that things are returning to normal. But what is back to normal in the mind of a child? Many of our youngest learners have never experienced education without pandemic restrictions. Instead of an opportunity to reset, our youngest learners need the chance to restart. Start from the beginning, start from the basics. Start by teaching empathy, kindness, and coping skills with lots of time for age-appropriate practice. Our secondary students also need this time to reset. They are also dealing with big emotions, just disguised under teenage attitudes and more colorful language. Many of their formative developmental years were overshadowed by isolation and little time to practice social skills in person. A marked increase in class cuts, outspoken defiance to adults, truancy, and substance abuse are just some examples of the collateral damage that our older youth are facing post-pandemic. We have students with the emotional capacity of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to figure out how to navigate 15 and 16-year-old social situations. Let's be honest, 15 and 16-year-olds sometimes don't have the best problem-solving skills under ideal conditions. So how can we expect them to appropriately manage their emotions when they have missed years of opportunity for practice? My point is, as the adults, we need to all be involved in helping students to manage their emotions. We need to discuss the struggles when things don't go according to plan and teach students the skills and strategies needed so that they can, too, look forward to become contributing members of their own future communities. Resiliency is important so that students can grow up knowing that they have the skills needed to look forward to becoming contributing members of their own future communities. Grit is something that we must teach in order to help prepare students for life as adults. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, in her book, You Learn by Living, you gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. Eleanor Roosevelt was describing grit decades before the idea of growth mindset was introduced in education. However, grit isn't the idea that kids need to just deal with it. Life is hard. Grit is something that can be cultivated through small but manageable challenges in which students are given just the right amount of support from caring adults. Resilience, grit's more sophisticated cousin, is what we should hope to foster in all of our students so that they are adequately prepared to face life's big challenges, but that they understand that it's okay to ask for and accept help when these challenges seem too big to face alone. Brave breaths. So now what? What are schools actually doing in order to help students reset and move forward post-pandemic? As school leaders, we need to provide support to our teachers, school counselors, and principals so that they have the strategies and tools to implement social-emotional learning into all aspects of the school day. We need to make sure that social-emotional learning becomes a part of the big picture, not just another curricular requirement to spring on the teachers at the expense of something else. Students in our elementary school are participating in short morning meetings at the start of the school day to help slow the pace of a rushed morning and provide time to begin by focusing on social-emotional learning. I happened to peek into one of these classrooms a few weeks ago, and the teacher was working with her 22 7- and 8-year-olds on greeting a friend. The students were asking each other how their mornings were going and what goals they had set for themselves for the day. The students were talking about working together, they were practicing eye contact, they were waiting for feedback and then taking their turn to respond, skills that are so important for many situations across everyday life. Students at our junior high school are also using time to reset. The teachers are incorporating mindful minute activities into the classrooms during core content subject areas. The teachers are working with the students to help teach them deep breathing, closing their eyes and counting backwards from 10, tightening and relaxing their muscles, and asking to take a break. These skills might seem childish, but that's the point. They are still children, and we need to provide them with strategies and techniques that they can use in the future to develop resiliency themselves. Resiliency is important so that as adults, we know that it's okay to face big challenges. Take a walk, go sit in the car for the middle of the day, and find that time to refocus and reset. Resiliency is important so that if your boss asks you to revise a project, or if you have a conflict with a coworker, you don't end up as the next viral sensation or on the evening news. We're also working with our senior high school students to develop this resiliency. All of our 9th grade students take a class called Freshman Focus, which is designed to teach the big skills that they will need in order to be successful throughout life and beyond, throughout high school and beyond. Skills needed to help manage the scary parts of growing up, including stress management, conflict resolution, time management, and professionalism, are all taught during this year-long course. This year, we've taken another unique approach to supporting the social-emotional needs of our students in grades 7 through 12. We have implemented a team of therapists at our secondary schools to provide support for all students in real-time moments when big emotions get in the way of a successful day at school. The therapists work closely with our school counselors and principals to implement lunchtime relaxation groups, targeted skill groups, and spur-of-the-moment support for any student. The therapists collaborate with parents and existing mental health support in order to help bridge the gap that many students are faced with when navigating tough issues during the day. During the first 3 months of the school year, the therapists have worked with nearly 800 students through targeted skill groups, one-on-one intervention, and spur-of-the-moment support to all students. Brave breaths. So as the rest of the world continues to reset and move forward post-pandemic, remember that educators are helping the next generation to do the same. Students are working hard to practice social skills, make up for lost time with friends, and develop resilience in order to come out on top, as children often do. And may we all find the time in our day to reset so that we can brave our own big emotions with the confidence of a 6-year-old who thinks that he can shoot spider webs. Thank you.